Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
You got ahead of yourself, and I'm Fiorella.
And Jonny Tsunami. Spitting on those ones and twos, fam. Day 2 for us here. Is it day 2? We're going to count the first night in town, day 1, or is that kind of like a little blip on the screen?
We literally were just traveling.
But hey, we had some fun times, met some cool people, some interesting people. Actually, a senator from the Dominican Republic, which was awesome. Some ambassadors and observers from Mexico, and had some good catracha food to start off with, and a nice bottle of smooth as tequila, is what the ambassador broke out and whatnot. So it was a kind of interesting night when we arrived here in Honduras, when we got to our spot, and then yesterday it all unfolded and started up. What did you think?
Just your whole like just.
Okay, let's do that over again. Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everybody. I'm just kidding. All right, so
So guys, we are here in Honduras. We are at the capital, Tegucigalpa. Tegucigalpa. Well, I was gonna start talking in Spanish just now.
Do it. Get into it.
Pero, okay. So I'm speaking in English. Okay, remind myself. Okay, so we're here and we are covering the elections, the presidential elections. There are also other candidates that are running on the ballots, like mayoral candidates and other offices and positions. We actually arrived in San Sula, which is about 3.5 hours north of here, and it took us a minute to get down here, which is why we were so tired the other day. And so we started learning about the election process and how that's going to go a little bit yesterday and more of that today. So it's kind of a very complex system because of the issues they had in 2017. And we're going to go over a little bit of that briefly. We're not really going to go super in depth into it yet until we actually see everything go through. But let's start out by looking at some of the things we saw yesterday. We went to the offices of the Libre Party, which is the party that is allowing us to observe the elections. And it was very interesting. We also got to speak with Manuel Zelaya. Pasta got to ask questions. I got to ask questions. Our friend Wyatt asked several questions. And I'll talk about the geopolitics of it. I'm not going to we can't really talk about, I guess, like they're kind of hesitant to talk about anything too political because of the implications that are happening in this election. It's a very important election to them. This is like they're fighting for their lives, essentially. They don't consider it an election against politicians. They consider it an election against drug traffickers, criminals, and a dictatorship, exactly, and like full on like totalitarianism. That's something very important to highlight. It's the reason why so many parties came together to coalesce behind the Libre Party, because people are extremely done with this system, and the vast majority of them want some sort of change. 73% of the country is statistically in poverty, which is a huge margin. Yeah,
one of the murder capitals of the world over the last several years and stuff. But what's been really interesting, fam, too, as well, and Fam kind of alluded to it, that, they're stepping very gingerly. Very a little bit different from what we saw in Nicaragua, right? When Nicaragua was like the Sandinistas,
Yankees go home.
You know what I'm saying? We ain't even playing your bullshit. Out. That's it. Yeah. There's a process here that's a little bit different, because the opposition to Manuel Zelaya's party, the Libre Party, has been in power since 2009. I think they took him out and whatnot. And then in 2017, they talked about the elections. And it's been really a focus on how they got screwed in 2017 and what are they doing to fix it in 2020. And the thing that's so crazy is that it resembles a lot of what we saw in 2020, where a lot of the accusations were there was a stuffing of the ballot box. There were people who were dead that were voting, people who didn't live here anymore that were voting, people that were just created that weren't voting. So how would they go about that process of fixing things? And I always like to talk about the fact that in 2017, the Trump administration, despite the OAS saying the election was so bad that they want to, and that's the OAS, so you can imagine, but in 2017, the Trump administration backed the results that came through, where Juan Orlando Hernandez was able to keep power and be that friendly ally to the neocons that run our country. So
Exactly.
that has been the whole process we're going through right now. We're seeing that. We're talking about that. And that's something they have said specifically. A lot of dead people voted. They estimated close to 1 million votes. They said that were Fugazi. Or,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Well, they
Not
stopped
dead.
the counting too, and then they brought more votes in.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, there was extra ballots. There was just not a system in play to stop any sort of bullshit tampering and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people being bought out at the tables, a las mesas, where they were being paid a lot of money, and those people, of course, are in poverty. So a lot of them took the money and were able to write a different number, because we'll go over that, the number situation, the tally situation, and how that goes through. So let's go ahead and start with we had some tweets we want to share with you guys. So the first one is a tweet from the Convo Couch via Jonny Imperialist, anti-imperialist, not imperialist. Sorry. And it says, we will be on the ground covering the elections. Support us here. And that's our GoFundMe. And you guys, in case you can help us out, go ahead. We've been traveling throughout the global south, and we have been doing a lot of running around on our own dime. So it's costing us a lot of money, but we love doing this work, and we will bring you guys the information. So Jonny posted this really great tweet about historic photos from Honduras that you cannot find online, and you guys can see from the pictures, Manuel Zelaya with Castro. Then you can see him like with Hugo Chavez in one of the pictures.
Maduro, that one.
Maduro, Nicolas Maduro in the other one.
Right there,
And also with Evo Morales as well.
Yeah.
So
and there's one with Evo.
Yeah.
Evo. So, I mean, you said Evo Morales.
Yeah, I just said that.
My bad. But there is a picture, too, with Daniel Ortega right there.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Ortega.
There's also a picture with
Daniel.
him and
Daniel.
one of the, what's his name? Hugo Chavez, right?
Uh-huh.
We're missing, and Morales.
Oh,
Morales,
and ¿cómo se llama? The one from Ecuador.
Yeah, it's Morales, right?
No,
not Morales.
that's not Morales.
Not Moreno.
Who was ousted. No. We were saying his name yesterday. Why is my name blanking? My mind is blanking. I'm gonna find it.
From Ecuador. It's in the chat.
No. We were saying
Correa.
Manuel Correa. Jesus Christ. So you guys can see that's pretty cool. You won't find those pictures anywhere, but
Correa survived this coup, though, right? They tried to coup him, get rid of him. He stayed in. He ended up taking back power. And then when he left, the next person was kind of campaigned as a progressive, but then completely turned. And once they got in office, and then they handed over Julian Assange, all that stuff. Because of Correa, Rafael Correa, that's why Julian Assange was able to seek refuge for quite some time. And once he was gone,
right,
they went after.
That's what they used to get rid of.
The IMF came in and whatnot, so yeah.
So also I wanted to show another one of the tweets so you guys could see. We went to the Libre office yesterday, and they had this artwork that was pretty much a depiction of the struggle of the people of Honduras, and all the way to the coup, and then the creation of the Libre Party, because the Libre Party was created in 2011 as a result of the 2009 coup. So, and we've been talking about this coup in Manuel Zelaya on the show forever. So it's kind of cool to be here and come full circle and actually have hear him speak and have conversations with him and ask him, just really like having had several world leaders in front of us in such a short amount of time is really crazy to me. Before that it was Pedro Castillo for me, and then it was Daniel Ortega, and that was awesome, and now it's Manuel Zelaya, and hopefully we get to see Xiomara while we're here as well, who is the presidential candidate. Manuel Zelaya reminded everybody that he's not running for president, so he can't answer all the questions because his wife, Xiomara Castro, is the one that is running.
Manuel Zelaya is taking the position of making sure that the elections are sound.
Yeah.
So you know what the Convo Couch is going to do when we get in front of him in his election questions. Just like this morning, when we win the panel. We're going to ask every single question out there. Yeah. And there's some things we're going to point out and talk about as we go along that are concerning right off the bat, like just right off the jump. We're like, oh, here we go. But with Manuel Zelaya yesterday, it was pretty interesting because there were a lot of questions that we were able to ask. And what was the problem in 2017? How did they fix it? Well, one of the misconceptions, I think, is that Manuel Zelaya or the Libre Party was out to get rid of the other parties and not have them in the room. But most of the parties, there's only 3 viable parties in the country. The other parties are very small, whatnot, but they were somewhat allies of the opposition that's in power right now, so they can clout the rooms and clout the system when it comes to tabulation, when it comes to other things, and that's what Manuel Zelaya kind of presented yesterday, that he says that they're no longer there because they really didn't even have enough followers to be considered a party. It's like if the Convo Couch started a party. We're a party. We got to go in the room. We filed our papers. Here we go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they weren't legitimate. So that's one of the reasons what they do. They remove them. Now there's only 3 parties in the room when they do the tabulation process, and they think they have more checks and balances in place. The biometrics, should we wait for that, or do you want to talk about?
Yeah. So let's just go. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I just want to show also a video of all the pictures that that pretty much, I just showed. Oh, and there's all of the world leaders that you guys will see. But also, you'll find a picture of JFK and Abraham Lincoln, 2 American presidents among a lot of these world leaders. You'll find the picture of JFK and Abraham Lincoln, the 2 people that were assassinated, interestingly enough, by, especially for JFK, by the CIA. So that's interesting. And again, you're not going to find these pictures in America. You're not going to find anything with Castro or Hugo Chavez in America. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see so many leaders cooperating in Latin America kind of together. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love Manuel Zelaya's hat. I wish he had it on yesterday when he came in. He didn't have it on, but as soon as he came in, it was like, oh, Mel's here. That's what they call him, Mel. Mm-hmm. Just really interesting too, as well. Some of the questions is fun stuff as well.
Yeah. So, we got to ask him a couple questions. So there's a few pictures of us asking him questions and saying hi to him, and you can see
Pasta sneaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there he is. He was addressing all the people that were observing and all the people, the activists that were there from different organizations. And he allowed everybody to go around a circle and introduce themselves. So we all introduced ourselves. And then, we shook his hand. Johnny took a picture, didn't get to take a picture of me shaking his hand. But Wyatt, he took a picture of Wyatt shaking his hand. Wyatt Reed from Sputnik. So yeah, that was cool. We got to see him. He gave us a book, and then Pasta went up to him like a goon and got him to sign the book for him. And
what happened was my man I think it's Larry Craig or something Craig. Yeah, he was there. He had a pen, and Manuel Zelaya signed it right next to him. So I was like, let me see that pen. And just took advantage of the situation. You can see Manuel Zelaya signed the book. And he had talked about this book. He said there was 40 books that were written about what happened to him during his coup. Mm-hmm. And there's only one book where he kind of expressed his feelings and what happened. So that was the book right there. That's the one book, and we got it signed from Manuel Zelaya. You can see right over there.
Awesome.
You want to talk about some of the questions we asked him?
Yeah, well, you asked him a couple questions.
Yeah, I got a chance to ask him 2 questions at the very end. And, obviously we said, what are the areas in which the Libre Party is concerned in which this election can go sour? He started talking about, he said there are 6 areas of fraud that can take place. He only answered 3, and then we kind of went on because I don't think he wanted to go through all 6 of them. But he talked about the normal ones, the press, the money, the party buying people off, all that situation, which was very interesting too as well. So
they're kind of aware that no matter how many precautions they take, there's going to be some rigging. They've accepted it. They've said as much, literally, to us that, they're going to do everything they can. They have more systems in place. They have more observers this time. So the observers have the ability to take pictures and report anything that we see is fraudulent. They also are allowing us more access into this database.
Yeah, we're basically allowed to go anywhere.
We're allowed to basically go everywhere. You have a mic?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And
sure.
so also, you can come and sit down because.
No, that's fine.
Okay. But they're also like having a few measures that we're going to talk about that are added security. But in spite of those methods that they're having, despite all that, they still admit that people might, get bought off because, again, the country is in dire poverty, and no matter how many measures they take, some of these people that do try to manipulate elections are professionals, but it would be like a 3 to 5% possibility. They're ahead by 17 percentage
There's
points.
a lot of support for
Xiomara.
In fact, they said that Juan Orlando Hernandez cannot even go out in public a lot because he's so ridiculed and they're so upset with the way the government has run things.
Yeah.
But the interesting part too as well, fam, is that, Manuel Zelaya won his election rightfully. He was a populist president, loved by the country. He was removed. So at the very end, the question which I asked him, I said, Mr. Presidente, I understand that you don't want to talk about the future. Because he wanted to talk about the process right now. I said, but there's a good chance that Xiomara could win, take power, and be removed just the way they removed you. I know you've thought about that, and what are your thoughts about that? He goes, that's a very pessimistic question, and I said, it's a realistic question, Mr. President, because this is something that's happened before. Why wouldn't it happen again? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He gave a pretty interesting answer. I thought it was very poetic of sorts.
It was very political. This is what I thought. I thought it was extremely political.
He had a great quote.
From a German philosopher about,
but
we'll get a hold of that clip later on. We'll put it up. I haven't had a chance to do it. It was kind of weird. It was like, it wasn't what we witnessed in Nicaragua. Nicaragua is Yankee go home. We're not taking your shit.
But they're also in power, which is the Sandinistas government is in power in Nicaragua. Yeah. In Honduras, the right is in power. The totalitarian drug trafficking, the government that the U.S. backed is in power. So it's interesting. Interestingly, one of the questions, the reason he said that, the reason that exchange happened, you asked that, is because I asked him if why, because he had said that the relationship with America has changed and that they don't believe America is going to really interfere like they did before. Yeah. And I was a little bit in disagreement because I know the United States and I know the empire. And I said, what makes you think that the United States has changed? I mean, I went through the President Barack Obama, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton removed you from office in 2009. And then the Trump administration continued that policy by not invalidating the fraudulent elections in 2017. And Joe Biden is going to do the same. Why do you think the situation has changed? And he basically said, oh, you're asking me about the future. I'm saying up till now, they haven't done anything. So they're trying to be a little bit kind of safe. They're playing it safe. They're
walking on eggshells.
They're not trying to really be so boisterously anti-American in their rhetoric. I'm like
anti-U.S. government.
Anti-U.S. government, right? Yeah,
anti-imperialist.
Yeah, but the imperialist type of, anti-imperialist type of sentiment you got in Nicaragua was extremely strong from the Sandinistas, whereas here they're a little bit more hesitant, but they're also uniting with people from the center and from the center right, because that whole alliance came together to join the Libre Party against the more liberal right-wing type of government. They call it the liberal government here.
It's literally
the liberal party.
Yeah, the liberal.
And that they kind of had to do that because they would have failed if they didn't get behind one candidate. So, but the thing that is interesting here is that the OAS is here right now. The OAS will also be looking at these elections, and I guarantee you that we will be looking at the elections far more intricately than the OAS will, especially considering what we just went through with the whole election process where they explained it, and Pasta and Jonny and I asked questions. Pasta specifically asked a million questions. People were leaving because he was asking so many questions.
It was important
that
questions.
we were scrutinizing everything. So
happened in Nicaragua. Could we just move on to tomorrow? He was hungry. He was like, I'm sorry, buddy. We got a lot more questions. But the main thing is that they feel that the number one issue in 2017 was when the machines went down, the tabulation, the electrical, whatever situation, and they were 5 points ahead, the Libre Party, 5 percentage points ahead. When things went back up 36 hours later, that gap had closed. And they felt that there was a lot of ballots. It was more about a process of win by stuffing the ballot box, where they felt there was a lot of people who didn't have the right to vote, voted multiple times, dead people voting, people didn't live there anymore. So what they've implemented this time is this biometric system, and we kind of used almost the same system when we landed, where we had to put our fingers on everything when we going through customs and stuff. So this new system is implemented, but I'm going to let Jonny tell you who's running the system, and then why we were like, it was like it was a knock right in my nose. I was like, oh shit, here we go. So I'll let Jonny tell you about it, and then he asked some questions too as well.
Right. So let me preface this with saying that. So we spoke to the representatives from the Libre Party, but they are very informed on the elections, and I just want everyone to know that the CNE, which is the what is it?
Central Electoral Council.
National Central Election
Council.
Yeah, National Electoral Council. And all parties, all three of the biggest parties are in the CNE involved.
Yes.
So the Libre Party has a lot of confidence that from when I spoke to the representatives, that they have a lot of confidence in this election process. So. And they explained a lot. But yeah, there is a little biometric thing. So it's like a little, it looks like, what you pay with credit cards a little bit.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, pull up a picture.
And, in fact, I can put the picture in the folder real quick so we can show people what it looks like.
So, you put your thumb on there, and then it matches you up with your ID. And it's made by Smartmatic. So
It's not coming.
So
I got it in the folder if you want to.
Yeah, Jonny, you can just grab it.
Okay, yeah, no,
It's terrible.
Yeah.
My bad.
that's all right.
Smartmatic, but isn't Smartmatic in Venezuela as well?
Yeah, but it's not a Venezuelan company. It's not in Venezuela. There's other corporations there, and you don't know exactly who owns Smartmatic because once again, it's a zombie company of another zombie company,
right?
And it's actually been used in a lot of nefarious ways. You look into Smartmatic in the Philippines, it is like riddled with a bunch of shit where they've had vote flipping, whatnot.
But that's the machine itself. That's not the thumb thing.
Right. So the
but
thing
there's
is,
other ways to do things.
the thing is that for this thing, to me, it seems like there's only this Smartmatic machine involved in the process. So this is how you verify somebody's identity. It's part of the biometric thing. You put your thumb up here, and then
in any finger.
Any finger, because when they get the new ID, which is I asked about how old that new ID is. It's about a year old.
Yeah.
So some people weren't able to get that in time to register to vote.
Yeah.
But when you get the ID, you have to put all 10 of your fingers. And if you don't, they even said if you don't have arms or something, then
you lost your hand.
There's a different way.
There's
a different way.
There's another way to identify. So for instance, so people have already been in the system. All their fingerprints are in the system, and they have up to 10 tries to put their fingers, any of those fingers, to work. Yeah. If it doesn't work, if there's something wrong with the machine, then also there's going to be the issue of, okay, well, then you give us your ID, we verify, you take off your mask, you step a few meters away, take off your mask, they take a picture of you, they make sure that matches your ID and your ID number, just to check that it's you. If you because they have to have another system in case somebody doesn't have fingers or lost an arm or just it's a fail-safe system, because the fingerprint machine might not work. But that machine also records every person that voted in that junta as well. So while that is also being recorded with the president and the secretary, it's also registered in the machine.
Let's talk about the ways that this can be a problem.
Okay? Right. Because we were asking these questions, me and Pasta specifically. We were like, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the first problem it could have is that for people who aren't allowed to vote, people aren't allowed to vote multiple times. Obviously, you're only allowed to vote once. But if you have a system in Smartmatic where you can get a certain person and you can send a program to whatever that machine is, they can go to different juntas and votes. If somebody from the other side is not is doing something to nefariously allow them to vote several times.
No, that was a good question you asked there. I was like, because we got to think about the ways that they might cheat the system, right? This is a new way it's introduced. This is a brand new thing, a biometric thing that could really. It's Smartmatic, dude. I don't know. There's like multiple lawsuits. When we're telling them, there's multiple lawsuits in the United States with Smartmatic regarding Smartmatic. But I asked them, who really made the push for Smartmatic, and that's where they said it was the current government. The current government. Yeah. So they weren't really, and we asked if it was open source, and they said that they have the source code, but we want to verify it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it's hard for people to answer that because the guy who was translating, it's like, it's hard to like translate that, like it's open source and what that means, because they were saying that it's not open to everybody, so not everybody has the source code, which I think is like, why should everybody have access to being able to hack something? I think that's how they took the question. That people that they don't want people to be able to have a code to hack it, right? Because that obviously nobody wants that. That's
the wrong argument to have. People have that argument all the time. If they have an open source system, we'll see thumbprints in there if somebody's trying to mess around. That's the whole security about having an open source system, where people kind of argue against that. And this is a system that can be a death by 1,000 cuts. So now if you have 1,000 people that you can take away the process, that the fact that they went and voted already and they can vote multiple times, if 1,000 people can vote four or five different times, that's 5,000 votes there. Also, the other end is now you have a system where somebody goes in the vote and say, oh, you already voted. What do you mean I didn't vote? No, you voted, you can't vote, and they'll shut them out. So that's the way the system can be gained. You know what I'm saying? And that's what
we're thinking. What you're guessing. I mean, that's.
I mean, if you just think about the logics of it,
it could totally happen. Yeah. I mean, we're not familiar with the.
I mean, it happens more in the U.S. I don't know how, but it hasn't. More here, it was the stuffing of the ballots.
But the good thing, it looks like it's not involved in tabulation. Smartmatic.
That it's not. So
No. It's just involved in the fingerprinting, and I'm pretty certain Venezuela uses a very similar system. In terms of that, and Venezuela is the exemplary country with the best elections.
Which we go verify.
We will have to go verify that, but I mean, according to all the election integrity activists that have been going to these elections with us, Venezuela is top tier. So far, from what I've seen, Nicaragua is the most simple, organized, common sense, paper ballots and all of that. So another thing about that worried me is that when the government that was pushing for it was the liberal government that's currently in power, which is interesting to me. But they do have representatives at the data center from each party. So each party is going to be getting the same information and they are making sure that it matches what is also at the National Voting Center as well. So they're very confident in this election because Xiomara is leading by 17 points. But at the same time, it's like they're accepting that there's going to be some form of malfeasance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. They're trying to do that whole, we're just going to overpower the system, the kind of the Bernie Sanders mentality that didn't come through. When you can game a system, it's really, anything can happen. But we'll have to see, because I think that if in fact some type of fugaziness does happen.
But they call it out here. They don't call it out in the States. And also they're not.
Well, one side calls it out, and then unfortunately on the left, the progressives, they take it and shut up, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then when it happens, when the Republicans do it, then, it's just a political thing in the United States rather than like what's actually happening.
Here, election and in the global South, elections are way more serious.
Yeah, they take their elections
way more serious.
A lot more
and
pride,
you need, pretty much in every single election we've seen so far in Peru, Nicaragua, Honduras, you need ID to vote.
Yeah.
That's like how serious.
There are no mail-in ballots, there are no drop boxes in these elections. And it's not that we can't have those things. We can still have nice things. But if we do them, we have to make sure there's security is in place. Mm-hmm. There has to be a chain of custody at all time. And that's what they're not going. What the mainstream media is not talking about. Like if you go all over Georgia, all over Washington, and I'm talking to those election integrity activists there, where they're going, okay, well, where's the receipts? Where's the paperwork that shows who picked it up, when they picked it up, what time, what's going on? They don't have any of that stuff. And that's how bad the elections are. And people don't pay attention to that stuff. In the United States, in Wisconsin, and in Georgia in particular. Like, I think they're missing 73% of the paperwork for the drop boxes in one county in northern Georgia right now, is what Garland Favorito told me. He goes, close to 73%. They don't have the paperwork. and you have to keep that stuff for 22 months. But they don't have those problems here because they don't have those systems in play, because those systems can be really, really problematic.
Yeah.
One of the things I was a little discouraged about, but it seemed like they have somewhat of a control of it, is the fact that they have some exit polls, not all everywhere, but some. You know what I'm saying? In the major areas, they're going to have some exit polls, but in some areas, they will not have that.
Well, they're saying logistically wise, and cost wise, it's like really difficult to do that. Is what the representatives from the Libre Party were saying. Because what Pasta recommends is that the party should have exit polls.
Always.
People outside the voting center asking, who'd you vote for? And then, you compare those with the actual results.
Exactly.
Maybe we should talk about how the system, they described how the whole process works so far. Of course, we're going to cover it on the ground, but maybe we should talk about how they described it to us.
Okay, so they described pretty much the opening. It starts like around 5 a.m. They start opening, like the whole process for the opening is what they start doing. And there's going to be the juntas. They also call it the juntas, like in Nicaragua. And there's going to be a mesa, a table where people go and they vote. And when they come in, they have to verify with their ID and then also their thumbprint. And once they go through that whole process and they get the ballots given to them, right? And then once they get the ballot, they go ahead and they mark the ballot. And you guys will probably not be able to see it, but they can mark the ballot in several ways, with an X, with a circle, with a check mark.
Yeah.
They can, if it's a null ballot, it means that the person wrote outside the margin, or like put multiple candidates for one position. So those are considered null and void, essentially. A person can leave a blank ballot or can leave an X outside of the box to
39.
show that they're not actually going to vote for any single person in particular. So once all the ballots, once the person votes, they have to come back and get like ink on their pinky finger. I believe it's the last one, the pinky finger, where they get marked so they don't vote twice. So it's kind of like Nicaragua, where they get their thumb marked. They're going to get this finger marked, is what they said. And the ballot, each ballot has the signature of the president and the secretary. Both of them have to sign the ballot. So that's kind of protecting against people bringing in a different ballot that's not signed by the president and the secretary. There are a certain number of possible ballots for each junta, which depends on the junta. So it's not all the same. Some of them might be 300, some of them might be 400 or 500. And those ballots are then taken into a tally, which is called the acta, and that tally is going to have the full, for the president, for the mayors, for all of the offices that people were running for. It's going to have the totals, and here is my issue with this. This is different from Nicaragua. That is sent electronically to the Central Tabulations Center, where then it's going to be scanned and looked at.
Put in an Excel sheet, and apparently that's a software that does that.
The software does that.
Yeah. But see, the thing is that the Libre Party, each party gets a copy of the same tally sheet from each junta center.
Yeah, and if it doesn't match, that's when they do scrutiny, which is essentially an audit. Where then that's when they would do an audit if the thing doesn't match. It's scrutinio.
Scrutinio. We should make scrutinio shirts.
Then they what they do is they transport it afterwards. The physical things in Nicaragua, they transport it physically and then they count it. So it's a little bit more safe. Right, in Nicaragua.
Well, they do tallies at each place. They do tallies at the local, the
regional,
and then the regional, and then the
national.
So they're always checking the tallies each time they go up to make sure that everything's in order.
Right.
So it's a little bit different in that way.
Yeah.
We did ask if they put the active receipts on the doors after for the people to go see and then take pictures, which is very.
No, they don't.
Should be done.
They don't.
Yeah.
But Nicaragua didn't do that either.
Yeah.
No.
Florida was supposed to do that. Remember,
they have
they're
a
doing
website.
the tally sheets. You take a picture, so it's like now we have a picture of what was hung out in the front door of that vote center, and we can verify it and they do have a website that will go live Monday with the results, so you can verify what's going on here in Honduras.
So
that's
with the full results. So it'll be the actual actas that will be up there. That they will have them up there.
Yeah.
Which is something the United States definitely doesn't do. They don't show you anything. They just show you like the result, but they don't show you the physical the ballot. They're showing you the actas, which is the tallies of the ballots. They're going to do that Monday, and they're not going to do it before that because the results prior will be preliminary results. The results on Monday will be official results, which is why they're doing that. So,
yeah. So then, maybe just to summarize kind of the process. So you go as a voter, you get checked in. They verify you, right, which they do with the biometrics, and then, excuse me. So you go vote. You put your ballot in the box. When the juntas, so there's 5 rooms at a voting center, and then there's 1 room where the tally sheets are made. So we'll be able to have access to all this on the ground Sunday, and we'll be able to record everything.
They do say that the citizens have a right to see the tally process too.
Yeah,
everybody.
That it's open to everybody.
Everybody can go. Everybody can go into that room and see them count the count the
which
ballots.
Is good.
Which is what we're definitely going to record and definitely going to.
Hopefully, we won't get kicked out of the room like we did in Florida. In Florida, that's the thing. That's so the fact that in the United States that it was confusing for them to even know because people didn't know. Are they allowed to be here? They're not allowed to be here. They're allowed to be here. Oh, we are. Here's the law. We're showing you. We're standing here.
Right.
Then you get a call from somebody, probably from Debbie Wasserman Schultz's fucking office. Get them out of the room. They get mad. They throw us out of the room. They're unsure of the laws. That doesn't happen here.
No, people know the laws.
It's a national law. It's all national. That's the thing.
Yeah.
In the United States, it's not very.
Not
it's not. There are some standards, but then each
county,
can
which is a disaster. I mean, I think we need to do away with some of that entirely.
But really quick, let me finish. So they get the tally sheets, and then they mark it, and then they scan it and send it on over. Like you said, there's a center of tally in here in the capital in Tegucigalpa, and then later on the ballots plus the tally sheets get sent to the center here in Tegucigalpa. And it gets escorted. I asked one of the gentlemen, and it's an army escort for each place. And there's like 18,000 places.
There's 18,000 total voting centers.
And each voting center has 5 juntas.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're gonna learn. We're gonna see more too when you get on the ground tomorrow. We would put the visuals and whatnot.
Right.
So. We're trying to grasp everything, ask a lot of questions.
I thought he said there are 18,000 juntas.
Maybe it's juntas.
I think it's 18,000 juntas.
Juntas,
no, 18,000
because that would be a lot of voting
centers.
centers.
Too many voting centers. There's 18,000 juntas, and I'm not sure how many voting centers, but there's 18,000 juntas. So juntas are the rooms where people vote. Yeah. So, yeah. So we'll be updating you guys with more information as time goes. We wanted to do a live stream because we wanted to show you guys so far what we've been covering. We actually have to go right now. We're late.
Shit.
We're going to go cover the Libre Party's platform. The Libre Party's platform, which is Xiomara. The Libre Party is going to show us their entire platform, what Xiomara is proposing, and all of that. So
special thanks to No Offense, hugs and kisses back at you. And Greg, thank you so much for being there. Greg Hausman, thank you for putting us here, and thank you for all those people who joined in the love on our GoFundMe. We still have that kicking right now. We had a great donation from somebody yesterday for $500, which is amazing, and got us halfway to our goal. How much are we at right now, Johnny?
$15.55.
$15.55. So thank you very much for those of you who
guys.
did that. And if you can't do it, just share the work. Just get it out there because there's a lot of stuff.
Anonymous. Thanks, Amir. Anonymous.
I love this anonymous person. I got to meet him. Makes multiple donations. It's awesome. One last thing I want to close out too as well. With yesterday we were talking to Mel. Talking about the chance of a possible coup and what happens with the country, because obviously the Western influences here is that they have been talking to members of the military, whatnot, and seeing their alliances there is very, very important because there has to be alliances with the military and the government. If this Zamara's government takes over, but yet there's a coup of sorts and the military joins the West, that's always an issue. And from yesterday when we were having dinner with some of the representatives, they said they've been militarizing the police like crazy in Honduras over the last several years.
Yeah.
That's a cause for concern too as well. So we're going to see everything here because if something happens and it's tainted and there's fraud, the streets are going to be, they're going to have an uprising over here. This is a little bit different right now because there's a lot of people who are digging in deep in Honduras and saying, no more, we're taking our country back. That's you can feel that here, you can sense that here. It's written in all the articles. So we're going to follow everything and see what happens, and hopefully we'll have a good sound process.
They're fighting for their lives, essentially.
They did.
Yeah.
Oh, they're always asking. Yeah. Peace.
They don't want the Libre Party specifically, but all the election observers, they're going to be making videos, or they were making videos asking for everybody to have a peaceful election. They don't want blood in the streets. They don't want any violence. Because that's what they're trying to say. They're trying to fearmonger people into not voting, saying that it's going to be violent and bloody. So they're fighting that narrative, especially the Libre Party is fighting that narrative, asking for a peaceful and sovereign election. And hopefully that's what they get. Like I said, they've implemented so many of these measures to help make things more secure. But also just, by comparison, these elections would be extremely right-wing with a thumbprint and all of that stuff for verification.
No mail-ins?
Like
we didn't ask about handicap,
they close at 5.
Yeah.
They close the polls at 5. Unless there's people in line, then they open it for another hour longer. Usually, I don't think lines are an issue they have to worry about. We'll see what happens. No mail-ins, nothing. You have to vote. You have to be registered to vote prior. If you're not registered, you can't vote. You have to vote where you're designated to vote. So once again, very similar to what we've seen in Latin America, guys. But we gotta go. We gotta go attend this meeting. So we will see you guys later. Thank you so much for all the super raise. Thank you for all the donations. We'll be updating you live on the ground tomorrow when we're.
We'll try to go live. We'll get to see what the night's like if we're out there, covering stuff. And if we can get back, we'll do another show. So thank you very much for everybody. Pastor Jardula.
Fiorella.
Jonny Sue.
Convo out.
See you later, guys. Thank you.